This is the second night of the Addiction and Recovery Lecture Series. My name's Casey King. I'm not the speaker. Our first speaker tonight is Tom Burney. Tom is Clinical Director for the Horry County Drug Court. And at this time, welcome Tom Burney.
Thanks, Casey. Well, good evening, everybody. Tonight I'm going to talk about drug court, the concept of drug court, and then at the end I'll actually talk about our drug court here in the 15th Judicial Circuit, which encompasses both Horry and Georgetown County. I have a PowerPoint. There's a lot of numbers. At the end I'll certainly welcome some questions if you have any questions about anything. I've been doing, just a little background on me, I've been affiliated with drug courts, I guess about 17 years. I started on Long Island. So using those in the speech class, don't listen to anything I say because they have a very thick New York accent. And it's a pretty dynamic, things are happening. Pretty dynamic thing, and I'm just going to, as I talk through this, hopefully you'll get a good idea of what we do. That's me. Feel free to call the county council and suggest I get more money. That's certainly welcomed. The following presentation is taken from various resources that are readily available on the net. So anything I say is factual. Kind of why I like Senator Moynihan's quote, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but not to their own facts. I have a little technical glitch, but we'll get there. Here's a little public service announcement.
Hi, I'm Sheriff Ibaka of Los Angeles County.
I'm Judge Ellen Fraser, County Drug Court.
Hey, this is Slash.
Hello, I'm Martin Sheen. Hi, this is Denny Snyder of the original Throne and Rules Home Carving Wings.
I'm Christopher Kennedy Lawson.
Hi, I'm Louise to the College.
Hi, I'm Johnny Sinegalli. It's an excellent Dolly Ball.
Hi, I'm Dallas Taylor, drummer for Crosby, Stills and Nash.
All rise.
When a court orders an addict to treatment instead of prison, we all rise.
All rise
And act.
When our government treats addiction as a disease rather than a crime, we all rise.
All rise and be heard.
When Congress finds the solution in drug court, we all rise.
All rise and act.
When a court opens its doors to solve the problems of its citizens, we all rise.
All rise and be heard.
When Congress works together to fund drug courts, we all rise.
Drug courts work.
When President Obama promises to expand the drug courts, we all rise.
All rise and do your part. All rise and put drug court within reach of every American in need.
Every American in need.
All rise.
All rise.
All rise.
And put drug courts in reach of every American.
Every American in need.
Within reach of every American.
Every American in need.
All rise.
All rise.
All rise.
All rise.
And put drug court within reach of every American in need.
All rise is the, pardon me, it's kind of the public service arm of the National Association of Drug Court Professionals. What their mission is to get every county in the United States to have a drug court. If I'm not mistaken, I believe there's a bill in our state legislature to mandate that. Unless it's been mandated already, I'm not quite sure. But anyway, here's some facts. 1 in 100 United States citizens are in jail or prison. This burden is borne disproportionately by racial and ethnic minorities, 1 out of 15 African-American men, 1 out of 35 Hispanic men. The U.S. incarcerates more people per capita than the 26 largest European nations. That's a tremendous amount of people, as we all know. So these are some facts. 80% of offenders abuse alcohol or drugs. 50% of the jail or prison inmates meet the criteria for dependence according to the DSM-4R. And I don't know what they'll meet after the DSM-5 comes out because nobody's quite sure what that's going to do. 60% of those arrested for most types of crime test positive for illicit drugs or at the time of arrest. That's 60% of the people are high when they get arrested, have drugs in their system. 80% of drug users commit a new crime upon release from prison. So that means once they get out, 8 out of 10 of them are going to reoffend. And speaking to parole informally, they reoffend relatively quickly. Approximately 90% return to drug use after release from prison. I ran a parole program up in New York. And the year we opened, we had 600 admissions, requests for admission to our program for parole violators. So it's a pretty serious problem. Those that are not regularly supervised by a judge, 60-80% offenders will drop out of treatment. So even if you put them in treatment, if there's not a judge supervising them, they'll probably leave. So what is drug court? They're actually going to start calling them treatment courts. I kind of like drug court better. Drug courts are judicially supervised court dockets that strike the proper balance between the need to protect the community safety and the need to improve public health and well-being. Between the need for treatment and the need to hold people accountable for their actions, between hope and redemption, and on one hand, and good citizenship on the other. One of our major things we do with our clients is we want them to be good citizens. They have to get jobs, they have to be on the books, they have to pay taxes. They have to do community service to get through our program, a minimum of 8 hours. So we really push citizenship on them. And they really respond well to that also. The scientific community has put drug courts under the microscope and concluded that drug courts work better than jail or prison, better than probation, and better than treatment alone. Drug courts significantly reduce drug use and crime and do it cheaper than any other justice strategy. And I'll show you later how inexpensive it really is. Drug courts provide more comprehensive and closer supervision than other community-based programs such as probation. All drug courts I know of, and particularly ours, are very, very on top of our clients. They have to be where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there. They're given a pretty rigid schedule on the calendar. They have a curfew that we check them on. And if they aren't where they're supposed to be, they answer to the judge every Wednesday. This is kind of long, but the most rigorous conservative scientific estimates from meta-analysis have all concluded that drug courts significantly reduce crime as much as 35% compared to the alternatives. And that'll make more sense later on when I show you some of the background of our drug court participants. After reviewing it in 2005, the GAO concluded drug courts significantly reduced crime compared to alternatives. In a nationally representative study of more than 2,000 graduates from over 90 drug court, the average recidivism rate was only 16% in the first year, leaving the program, and 27% after the second year. So, do some math, 83% of the graduates aren't reoffending. I don't think there's any other program that can say that. And we check it. We run their rap sheets. We make sure they're not out there getting rearrested. This compares very favorably to recidivism rates on conventional probation, in which 46% commit new offenses and over 60% commit a probation violation. It's actually 4 times the improvement over standard criminal justice treatment programs. Studies reveal the average cost savings ranging from more than $4,000 to more than $12,000 per client. And I'll explain the exact cost savings that we achieve in Horry County for our clients. The cost savings are due in part to reduce prison costs, reduce revolving door arrest and trials, and reduce victimization. I know when I was on the ground floor helping set up the drug court in Suffolk County, Long Island, and that was like 17 years ago, incarceration in a state prison in New York costs $50,000 a year. You times that by about 100,000 people, that's a lot of money. So it's one person coming out, that's 50 grand they save right off the bat. 2 people that don't get incarcerated saves a prosecutor's salary. These costs are doing, like, for every federal dollar invested in drug court, states technically will actually receive about $4.30 in additional state funding, because they don't need the money for medical care most of the time and other social service things. You want to check those facts? That's where you go. I'm not making them up. 75% of drug court graduates remain arrest-free for at least 2 years after leaving the program. I'm sure that's arrest-free for felonies, at least. I'm not quite sure about misdemeanors. But that's the national statistic. Rigorous studies examining long-term outcomes of individual drug courts have found that reduction in crimes lasts at least 3 years and can endure over 14 years. The most rigorous and conservative scientific analysis have concluded that drug courts reduce crime 45% more than other sentencing options. It's just some more stuff. Every buck invested in drug court saves taxpayers $3.36 in avoided criminal justice costs alone. Solicitor Embry, when he was the solicitor, said once at a meeting, I think it cost $13,000 to prosecute a felony drug case in Horry County. So that's pretty significant savings. When considering other cost offsets such as savings from reduced victimization, healthcare services, studies have shown benefits raise up to $27 for every dollar invested. Drug courts produce cost savings ranging from $3,000 to $13,000. They reflect reduced prison costs, once again a revolving door arrests. Every dollar invested in drug court was leveraged then to $9 in savings. Unless substance abuse and addicted offenders are regularly supervised by a judge and held accountable, 70% drop out of treatment. The program I had, that 600 admissions was actually for a 100-bed program a year. So it's pretty right on target, that number. A lot of people leave if they don't have the leverage of a judge watching what they're doing. Drug courts provide a more comprehensive and closer supervision than other community-based supervision programs. Drug courts are 6 times more likely to keep offenders in treatment long enough for them to get better. Well, there's an obvious reason why they stay in treatment. I don't know if anybody knows what it is. Is they go to prison if they don't go to treatment. So the options must better. When the clients complain about how hard drug court is, I always tell them the same thing. Step up to the plate on Wednesday and tell the judge you don't like it here. And don't eat the candy bar in your cell. Drug courts are 6 times more likely to keep offenders in treatment long enough for them to get better. They get better. They become better people. They become mentally more healthy. They become physically more healthy. They become recovered more healthy. They just do a lot better in their life. Eligible drug-addicted persons may be sent to drug court in lieu of traditional justice system case processing. Drug courts keep individuals in treatment long enough for it to work while supervising them closely. Drug courts can range from 6 months. I've heard of them for 2 years. But the longer you're in, I think anybody that's in the treatment world or been to treatment, the longer you're in, the better you do. It's just the way it is. Participants in drug courts are provided with intensive treatment and other services they require to get and stay clean and sober. They're held accountable by the judge for meeting their obligations to the court, society, themselves, and their families, regularly and randomly tested for drug use, required to appear in court frequently so that the judge may review their progress, and are rewarded for doing well or sanctions when they do not live up to their obligation. It's the drug court concept, when you're doing well, you're recognized. When you're doing badly, you're sanctioned, you're punished. I know I always tell our clients, don't take it so personal. It's just what you did. You did this, you have to pay the piper. Who gets in? Drug courts are always determined by local need. Most drug courts in the United States are adult drug courts, but where I used to live, there's juvenile drug court, DWI drug court, family drug court, adolescent drug court. I think in Suffolk there might be, when I left there was 500 people in drug court. It's a pretty big county, but it just shows you how this idea is catching on. So like it says up, the family, mother and child. You have a child, I know the one we had in the program I worked for. I was a director for Phoenix House. I don't know if anybody knows about Phoenix House. It's a therapeutic community in Florida and the Northeast and Texas. But we had a mother-child program where the mother, addicted to drugs, would get their baby and raise their child in treatment. And they could take a kid up to 3. And they had healthcare aides and nursing aides, and they actually had a very close relationship with Child Protective Services, and they still had to go through the treatment process. They were sanctioned, different things like that. There's mental health drug courts. That's kind of a new concept. That's quite a different one because it requires a little more intervention. You need psychiatrists, a care team, different things like that. There's re-entry drug courts. That's kind of a new thing also. It's for guys coming out of prison. Instead of parole, they go to drug court. And if they successfully complete drug court, their parole ends. Then I said DWI. Then the latest one started in Buffalo, New York, of veterans drug courts. That's a pretty hot issue. If you want to start a drug court, that's where the money is. There we go. First drug court was in Miami-Dade County, Florida in 1989. Janet Reno was the district attorney down there. In her words, she basically got tired of trying the same people over and over again for the same crimes. So a visionary group of justice professionals decided that the system as it existed was broken and there had to be a better way. And like I said, one of the big things with drug courts is to stop that revolving door. Stop trying the same guy over and over, the same girl over and over again. I just stuck some key components of what all drug courts have to have. The realization that rehabilitation goals require a team approach, including cooperation, collaboration of the judges, prosecutors, defense counsel, probation authorities, and other correction personnel, law enforcement, pretrial services, tasks like North Carolina has tasks, we have PTI, evaluators, and an array of local service providers in the greater community. Eligible participants are identified early and promptly placed in the drug court program. Ongoing judicial interaction with each drug court petition is essential. They have to see that judge. The judge can't be somebody they just talk about. They have to see the judge on a regular basis. Our clients see the judge every week until they're in the program about 6 months, I think it is. Drug courts establish a coordinated strategy including a continuum of responses to continued drug use and other non-compliant behavior. That's a nice way that you're going to jail for the weekend if you use. Responses to or sanctions for non-compliance might include escalating periods of jail confinement. You might go for a month. One of the things that we do here in Horry County is that we always win. You're not going to beat us, and my saying to them is, don't make no plans for the weekend. You have an emu bog and gray hot dogs. Abstinence is monitored by frequent alcohol and other drug testing. We use every test you can possibly imagine. We use the ETG, ETS alcohol test, picks it up for anywhere from 86 to 90 hours. We lose 11 panels, 12 panels, 5 panels, 6 panels. We mail them away. We use every panel you can think of. We test for K2, now known as K3, spice. Drug courts provide access to a continuum of alcohol, drug, and other related treatment and rehabilitation services. And this is our drug court. The next few slides. Didn't want to rush too fast. But, it's an overview of the 15th Judicial Circuit Drug Court. Like I said, that's Horry and Georgetown County. Little history on it. I was hired about a year in. It's a little over 7 years old. Former Solicitor Embry started it at the impetus of Assistant Solicitor DeBusk. And this is our team. Candy DeBusk is the director. That's me, the clinical director. Gene Crosby, treatment provider. Amanda Harmon's the treatment provider. Kerry Harvin. Jessica Flansburgh's our evaluator. We actually evaluate our statistics weekly to see make sure we're doing the right thing. Best practices, that kind of stuff. Deidre Edmonds is our drug court judge, and I just want to spend a minute on Judge Edmonds. The first 3 people are the only salaried employees in drug court. Amanda and Jessica are part-time employees. The judge, the solicitor, and some of the other people on the next slide volunteer their time. Judge Edmonds is our probate judge. She's an elected official. She's been with drug court from its inception. All her time is on her time. She takes time out of her day to meet with us, And she goes to our trainings with us. She deals with the clients with us, all free of charge. So she's a pretty special person. Her assistant, Kathy Ward, is also one of our judges. Kathy, same thing, volunteers, no extra pay. She gets to be aggravated by myself and Candy pretty much on a weekly basis. The judge down in Georgetown is Waldo Maring. He's also a volunteer. He doesn't get paid for drug court at all. George DeBus is our solicitor. Martin Spratling's a solicitor. Naja Black is a Georgetown solicitor. Annette Chinese is the Voc Rehab counselor. And Jason Strope is our investigator. We have, and whenever a defense attorney wants to sit in our meetings, they just call our director and they're more than invited to sit in with us. Our drug court team, basically what the team is, it's like I said in one of the slides, it's a team concept. The judge sits at the head of the table, and we discuss every client every week. What do they need? What aren't they getting? What do they need to push? They need to be held back a little bit. Are they doing well? Which is just as important as if they're not doing so well. And also, when somebody applies for drug court, myself or Gene typically do the assessments. We type up a report, mental status on them, an assessment summary, and we vote on them. And everybody has an equal vote. We all discuss as a team sanctions, terminations, graduations. We just had a graduation last week. I think we graduated 8. Not quite sure. That's 8 people that were supposed to be in prison. And they range from the age of 18, so I think about the mid-30s. But the one kid that started at 18 was 17 when he started drug court. This is our mission statement. We made it not too Star Trek-y, so it's not too bad. It's offering society a judicially supervised drug treatment program that benefits both the abuser and the community by breaking the bonds of addiction and reducing the cost of the criminal justice system. I think Candy was like a creative writing major in college. Who's eligible? Nonviolent offenders with pending criminal charges. They cannot get in if they're a violent offender. We take our pact with the community very seriously that we're not going to endanger it by letting violent people into our program. They're at home every night. You have to be addicted to alcohol and/or drugs. You have to be committed to change, and you have to be a resident of Horry or Georgetown County. That's Judge Ward and one of our graduates. How does it work? The solicitor refers us our clients. We don't go out looking for them. They can't come in the office and request it. It's part of a plea they make with the solicitor's office. What happens then is that they are screened by the director to make sure they meet those requirements about their offender status. Do they live in the counties? Do they have viable transportation? Do they have a stable living environment? You're not going to get into drug court if you live in one of those houses with the ripped up couch arms and the sticky floors. You're not going to be able to come in if you live in a crack house. You have to have a stable living. I'm doing really well. I'm not cursing or nothing. Usually I curse pretty much by this time. Beth can attest to that. And I haven't thrown this at anybody, so I'm way ahead of the game. After we screen them and we do an assessment, we use the Addiction Severity Index as our main tool to assess depths of addiction and stuff, and a psychosocial. Me and Gene type up our reports, the team's given a copy, and we vote on you. And all that stuff comes into play. Then that client is required, if they're accepted, they're required to go in front of a circuit judge and plead guilty to a crime. We are what they call a post-sentence drug court. All our clients have prison sentences when they come in. They can range from 90 days to open sentences held in abeyance, which means if your sentence is held in abeyance and you're in drug court, it's probably a really good idea for you to finish drug court. We've had 10, 15-year sentences. Most of them is basically because of repetitive crimes. They haven't done nothing, dangerous. It just might be their 5th shoplifting or 4th nonviolent burglary, something like that. They plead guilty to sentence. They then come before our judge, and she asks them if they know what they're getting involved in. They all say yes. Then the next day they all say, I didn't know this was what this was about. What do you mean I can't go where I want? She shakes their hand and says, you're in. And the only way out, if you've ever been in a courtroom, is through the steel door or the double door. No other ways out. Level 1 is our lowest level and our newest level. We started level 1 a few years ago. It's an expected sentence of 3 years or less. It's a minimum of 9 months to complete. And 9 months is only if you finish on graduation day. Our graduations are quarterly, so you'll have to wait till the next graduation if you miss it by a day. If you miss graduation by a day, you don't graduate. You can plead and cry, but you're staying. They're drug tested a minimum of 2 times a week. All our tests are witnessed. Nobody gets to go in and do whatever magic they do in the bathroom. Somebody watches them. It has 2 phases of treatment. Phase 1 is 2 times a week. It's a $50 weekly fee. Then they go to aftercare, which is 1 time a week, and it's a $30 fee. Level 2 is our largest group of clients. They have expected sentences over 3 years. It's a minimum of 18 months to complete that program. They're drug tested a minimum of 3 times a week, but they can be drug tested at night, Saturdays. They actually call a number, and now we're really high tech. We post it on Facebook, and it actually rings their phone. It has 5 phases. Phase 1 is 3 times a week and court every week. They go to group therapy. It's 90 minutes long. 1 day is a didactic day, as with the other level, where they learn something. I've been in this business probably way too long, 27 years. And one thing I learned is it amazed me how little drug addicts know about drugs. They know where to get them, they know how to use them, but they don't know what they do to them except make them feel better than they felt prior to using. So they learn a real lot. It's pretty funny when you're talking to a group of people, and this is how you know they've progressed so far, that recite to you about neuroplasticity and the neurobiology of my neurotransmitters, and they're talking like they're psychiatrists, just based on what they listen to in lectures. So they're really motivated, the people that stay are motivated. Phase 3 is twice a week, and they have court every 3rd week. Then aftercare, it's 1 time a week, court 1 time a month. And reentry is treatment twice a month, court once a month. I'm not sure if I put all the rules in there. Yes, I did. Here's some of our rules. Everybody has a curfew. For most of your time in drug court, it's 11 p.m. Our curfew means 11 p.m. in your house, not on your driveway, not on the curb, not sitting on the porch smoking cigarettes, not leaning your head out the window. You're in your home. We have an investigator, Jason, that will go out starting at 11 o'clock and check on our clients to see that they're where they're supposed to be. When we knock on your door at 2:30 in the morning, you have to show up. If mom shows up, unless she's willing to plead to your felony, we're not interested in talking to her. We want you. But they're drug, alcohol tested, and to move into that aftercare thing, they are hair tested. That's just to make sure you haven't slipped by I think we did it 2,900 tests a quarter we do on our drug court clients. They have to go on a prison tour. Which really I find interesting about the prison tour is they go up to Bennettsville, is that the guys that have been in prison are really uncomfortable going on the prison tour. And they're the ones that talk most about it. They actually fill out a form about what the experience was like and how they felt and stuff like that when they come back. They must have full-time employment. We check them at work. We try to do it as covertly as we can, but they're checked at work. They have to turn in their pay stubs every week. If they fall below about 30 hours a week, they have to do community service. They have to attend self-help meetings. We mandate them to go in the beginning to 4 12-step meetings or community help meetings a week. For the vast majority of treatment, they'll go for 3 a week, and then they're down to 2. And actually in re-entry, we don't require them to do anything but come to treatment and not use. What we're trying to do is mimic them leaving while they're still under our supervision as close as we possibly can to how they'll be when they leave. Those are if you go to meetings, they're the ones with the yellow sheets annoying you to sign their sheet. Because that maniac in Laurel Street will send me to jail if I don't get this sheet signed. We also have parenting class. Dr. Califf does that for us. That's a real, get a real positive feedback on that. They all afforded individual sessions if they so choose. They have to do a phase, but if they want to come speak to myself or to Gene every week, they're more than welcome to do that. One of the other things we just started, actually, we just finished, it'll finish in 2 weeks, I believe. We also have a women's trauma group. They're taking out the regular group therapy, and they're putting a women's traumas group. All the females have to go in it. I went to the training in Atlanta on it, which that could be another whole PowerPoint, being the only male in a women's trauma group. Stephanie Covington wrote the program. She's on Oprah Winfrey all the time. We get a real good response on our women's trauma group from the females. It's something very, females have a very unique role in addiction. We find a lot of our female clients are taking raps for people, saying the drugs are theirs. Most women are introduced to drugs by a male. So it's important that they get a little more attention paid to them, and consequently, when they're in women's group, the men's group becomes the men's trauma group, I guess. And they also, our clients pay restitution to their victims. They have to pay their court costs, and they have to pay weekly fees to drug court. Whoops. Let me press escape. That's Judge Edmonds. Sanctions and incentives. We have a 30-day rule in level 2. The 30-day rule is what all the guys and girls in J. Rubin tell the other residents. Don't go in that drug court, man. It's a setup. They just want to put you in prison. In the first 30 days, you're not allowed to miss or be late for anything. If you miss, and I mean, we count a missed treatment session as 15 minutes after its official start. So if you roll in at 8:46 and you're in that program 28 days, you're going to go serve your sentence. When we came up with our third, we modified it somewhat. If they're late but make it to the group, they can also opt for 60 days in jail or 30 days in jail and wear for 30 days wear a GPS bracelet that is $60 a week, and they pay for it. So their cost went from $50 to $110 a week. We have, so that's the 30-day rule. The 30-day rule is kind of unique to our program, and I think it's really important. Back when I first started this, I primarily worked with chronic relapse and IV heroin addicts, which I found out later on meant all the clients nobody else wants to work with. And one thing I found, that no matter how badly they were on dope, they'd get where they got to be. They'd find that cop man as in a snowstorm barefooted. So they can find 114 Laurel Street in beautiful Conway any day of the week. So we're pretty rigid about where they got to be. They get weekends in jail for various reasons. Failed test, 48 hours. Failed 2 tests, 48 hours. Failed 3 tests, 3 48 hours. Fail 4 tests, you're reviewed for termination from the program. We require our clients to do community service, 8 hours to finish the program, but if they are not working after 2 weeks of entering the program, we just got a bunch of new clients this week, they're giving you about 2 weeks, I guess. Well, 1 week they're given to have to do 15 applications a day, job applications. After that, they have to do 15 applications a day plus 2 hours community service, and the community service numbers will continue to rise until you are incarcerated every weekend until you get a job. And we had 100% employment through the worst economy the country's seen in quite a while. It's amazing when that steel door slams, how quickly you get a job. Home detention, that's our GPS monitors. We keep tracking you. Good things that happen to you, besides finishing the program. You get certificates for moving up to each level. You get praise from the judge. You might get to skip court sessions. You can request your curfew to be extended. One of the unique things about our program is you're actually sentenced to us. So they're not allowed to leave the county without permission. And if you aren't doing what you're supposed to do, you're not leaving, and we really don't care what's going on in your life. We don't care if your great-grandmother is having a difficult pregnancy, you're not going to see her. It's just not happening. But if you are doing well, you are going to see her. If you go any long distance, like an overnight, well, we've had guys go to Florida. Everybody always came back. We might tell you, listen, you have to catch a meeting and bring back a pamphlet or get this sheet signed. We want some kind of proof. They also fill out a little summary about what the meeting was about. You might see them with the white sheets. And that's just so I can kind of read them and pretty accurately tell whether or not they actually went. Currently, we have 92 active clients. That represents 350 years of imprisonment are now attending drug court. We added up all their prison time. We have saved the state just on our active clients close to $1 million in incarceration costs. Our average client is responsible for 14 arrests prior to drug court. They've been locked up a minimum, on average, 14 times before they enter our program. At a staff meeting, Solicitor Embry told us that it actually frees up one solicitor's position to do something else, do something much more important. Those clients represent, the clients we've had gone through drug court represents a $3.25 million savings in prosecution costs. We figured out by how much they tell us they use, which is always a lie. I've learned how much do you need to use not to get sick, how much can you use without dying. And it usually runs from 3 bags to a bundle. But we figured we've taken $1 million out of the Horry County drug trade by our clients based on what they report, and we kind of half it. It's not a scientific formula, but I'm pretty sure it's close. All our participants are required to work full-time, increasing the taxes paid to federal, state, and local governments. Our drug court has saved a minimum of $1.5 million for the South Carolina Department of Corrections. That's based on their cost per inmate per year. I just realized something. I left something out of here. Saves approximately $50 per day of incarceration costs times 92 clients. That represents we have saved Horry-Georgetown County, right now, today, we saved Horry-Georgetown County $4,600 in jail fees by our clients being in drug court rather than being incarcerated. I have no idea, but I'm sure it's pretty significant. The vast majority of our clients are in here for property crimes. Burglary, shoplifting, breaking and entering, stealing your Dillard's bag at the beach access, that type of stuff. Think about how much money that eliminates in shoplifting, burglary, and other property crimes. Those are all addiction-related crimes. They're not unique to Myrtle Beach. They do them everywhere. Since our inception, about 7.5 years ago, 152 graduates. 83% of our graduates remain conviction-free. Some of these graduates had up to 42 arrests prior to coming to drug court. Some of them are actually like that old comedy thing routine with your rap sheet. It's just like a book. They like that thick. That means only 17% of our clients have been reconvicted for a crime in 7 years. Pretty amazing. Well above the national average. We have collected over $45,000 in restitution money, which is directly returned to the victims of their crimes. We've collected a total of $500,000 in client fees, which I just found out today. So I definitely now I know I need more money. We receive operating monies from mandated state funds collected from drug-related charges, mainly defendant court costs. In other words, we cost the county nothing. We're a free program. We also were awarded a grant from Sanctions and the Bureau of Justice Administration that helped us hire some new people, open up our Georgetown program, and get us into different trainings where we could hire specialist counselors for our different needs that I mentioned before. And so it helped us really expand our services. We are not a free ride.
Never see another pair of handcuffs. Never see. I'll never see another pair of handcuffs. Drug courts reduce crime 50%.
Drug courts reduce crime.
No more wasteful prison spending.
No more arrests. No more families turned up.
No more collected lives. No more overdoses.
No more overdoses.
No more overdoses.
No more hopelessness.
Drug courts are the solution.
Please feel free to call Candy and call her frequently. That's her office number and her cell number. I'm sure she's really thrilled I put her cell number down. And just to leave you with one last thought. It's not always safe to have one. Well, thank you for allowing me to speak about our drug court. I greatly appreciate it. That's as far as I can go. Anybody have, thank you. If anybody has questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Oh, I saw this lady first. Oh, I'm not supposed to move that past that light.
What is done to get family members into recovery, such as Al-Anon, Alateen, and Theranon?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of the question.
What is done to get family members of the people in drug court to such recovery as Al-Anon, Alateen, or Theranon?
To be quite honest with you, we recommend that to the clients, and that's as far as it goes. We did have a family program in the beginning, and we got no attendance. What we found, to be quite honest with you, is that our typical client has really burned all those bridges. Their treatment out, a lot of them typically have 4 or 5 stays in treatment, and the families just a lot of times don't come. But we actually recommend our clients to go to Al-Anon, because most of them are from addicted homes. Yes, sir.
What's your program different from Shoreline? Is that your more training program?
I'm not too sure about Shoreline, but I would guess we are. I think Dan's going to talk about Shoreline. We are not an open enrollment. You have to be referred by the solicitor's office to our program. We don't take referrals from doctors or lawyers unless they're a solicitor. It's part of a plea agreement. Even though we're a DHEC approved treatment facility, we're closed. We don't allow outside people to come into it. They have to be referred by the solicitor's office. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
This is the first time I've ever heard of a drug court. Why is this not a more popular program?
Where are you from? Here. It's pretty much, I think almost every county now has one, and there's a lot of counties that have combined together and made them. I'm not sure of the county names. I know Florence has an adult and an adolescent one, I believe. Richmond County has them. Charleston County has one. Oh, I know they have one in Spartanburg, I think, and out in Greenville. We actually know that because a lot of them called us to see how we set ours up and stuff like that. But it's gaining in popularity. It's kind of why I was happy to come speak to it, because it's a real positive tool and effective tool to use. Instead of, you lock up a drug addict, you get a drug addict back. That's the bottom line. Yes, Ben?
Is PTI the first step of diversion, and then drug court is a possibility if they get in trouble again? Or are they on the same, depending on what the crime has been committed?
No, we're totally independent. The first intervention, I guess, would be the juvenile justice system, an arbitration, then I guess PTI. If you fail PTI, it doesn't necessarily mean you'd be eligible for drug court. We're a standalone, we share buildings, but we're a standalone program. Anybody else?
On the parental session, is that mandatory for the parents to come?
No.
But with the clients that you have, the parents do come, that's a better successful?
Oh, I'm sorry, we have parenting group. That's for our clients. The clients we had that came to our initial parenting group, we saw absolutely zero effect on their recovery rates. They didn't do any better than the person that didn't come. You gotta remember, our population is really unique. They're chronic offenders for the most part. This is a last gasp effort by many of them to get their life back on track. Most of them live independently. Yes, sir.
I have a friend that's in the drug court system, and I got to give you props. You got his attention. From what I understand, he's clean and sober for the last 10 years on the cause program, and you got his attention. So that's been working.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Are there any plans for mental health?
I have heard that rumor, but my office don't even have windows, so I'm not privy to that kind of information. So, but we don't have plans as the drug court, but that's certainly an option, I guess, for other providers possibly, or other agencies. I don't know. Be quite honest with you. It'd be a nice thing to have, for sure. Anything else? Well, keep on keeping on. Thank you very much. And our court is on every Wednesday at 4 o'clock. It's an open court session. If you want to come and look, or watch, or observe, you're more than welcome. It's your community as well as ours, so we welcome you to come. Thank you.
Our next speaker is from Shoreline Behavioral, Mr. Dan Shodel.
Actually, I do work for Shoreline Behavioral Health Services, and I've been a counselor for about 28 years. I'm in personal recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. I didn't want that in my life, but I got stuck with it. These lights are I didn't expect to have those in my eyes like that, so if I'm squinting at you, it's not because I'm mean or something like that. It's hard to believe that there's so many different points of view when we talk about addictions and we talk about diseases. There's so many different disciplines that have evolved over the years that are now looking and taking action, doing wonderful things to help people find their way into something called recovery. So what I'm really going to be talking about tonight is recovery. Recovery for me is coming from the school that's pretty much has its foundations in the American Medical Association, the American Psychiatric Association, and the American Society of Addictive Medicine. Most of what you will hear from me in terms of clinical stuff, you can do some verification through the World Health Organization's International Classification of Diseases. Now, in my lifetime experiences, I've run across, not here, but other places, sheriffs. We've had lunch together, and they'd say things to me like, "You give me that damn crack addict, and I'll put him away for so long he'll never want to see a crack rock again." And I thought about it for a few minutes. I thought, gee, that might be something that would work. And maybe after that we could try diabetics and put them in jail until they don't have diabetes anymore. Where I come from, addiction, the disease of alcoholism, is not something that is can be punished away. The American Medical Association described it as a disease, and the continued compulsive use of the chemical ethyl alcohol despite the negative consequences to the organism, and treatable but not curable. The DSM-4 TR, 4th edition, has 7 criteria for someone who has a clinical mind to pick out any 3 of those things would help in the formation of an opinion or a diagnosis that the person is chemically dependent. I look at it as psychoactive substances. Now, there are a lot of people in this field who over the years have come to identify me as somewhat of an expert. I don't know necessarily that I agree with that, but I'll try to play the role of the expert. But I'm not here to talk about the disease and the treatment aspects tonight, although that's a field that I have a little bit of expertise in. I want to start this by saying that recovery is now defined pretty much on an individual basis. But when I was started into the first exposure to that word, it didn't have as much latitude or expression behind it. I came up in South Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I don't tell that to a lot of people. I graduated from high school. I started working when I was 12 years old in a drugstore. I worked in that drugstore until I was 19 years old. And I'm not going to tell the same story that I tell at the fellowship that I belong to at least once a year. That takes too long, and it's not going to probably bore the heck out of you. But you can imagine a kid who comes from a family of working class people, 3 brothers and 4 sisters, and coming up thinking that I was someday going to be very, very wealthy. And working in that drugstore, I got to meet a lot of doctors and a lot of nice people that weren't of the construction genre. They were from professors and doctors and neat people, clean people with brilliant minds. And I found out that I could steal drugs from that drugstore. Whenever the pharmacist would go into the bathroom, I could go back. Now look, I was a child of the 40s and the 50s. That's when Valium was invented. That's when you had tranquilizers coming out on the market. They were closing down psychiatric hospitals and putting people on the street with a big bottle of pills that would give them the Thorazine shuffle, we used to call it. People walking around the streets. And I thought I was a very normal teenager. I liked being liked. And I never, ever, ever dreamed my life was going to go in the direction it went. Into my 20s with a family and children and a home and businesses and people applauding and a political future and a business, everything going great. And if someone had told me that I was going to end up where I'm going to begin the story for you tonight, I wouldn't have believed it. It would have been impossible to believe. Just impossible. And yet at the same time, I can tell you that, did that thing click once behind me? Did it start running? It is running, okay. 1981, a policeman picked me up on the side of a road where Highway 50 and Highway 27 intersect in Florida. I was hallucinating in all 5 senses. I was somewhat sheltered in a cardboard box that I had fashioned out of a refrigerator-sized box that I leaned up against a wall. And when he picked me up, and I was scared, I thought he was charging me with a crime, he took me to a place called a crisis stabilization unit in Orlando. And I don't know how long I was there, maybe 3 days, maybe 5 days. I remember seeing when I first went in, there was a girl, a teenage girl, licking an ashtray. And I was getting ready to be taken into a shower and put into a little room for seclusion for a while. But I saw that girl licking that ashtray and I thought, my God, where have they brought me to? She's really sick. At the end of my stay there, 2 young men walked up to a chair that I was sitting by. They were getting ready to release me the next day. And the 2 young men, one of them said to me, "Is your name Dan?" And I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "Would you like to do something about your drinking problem?" And I started to bawl like a little baby. I said, "I'll do anything. Absolutely anything if you can help me to stop drinking. Anything." He said, "We'll be back to pick you up tomorrow." I didn't believe it. The next day they came and they were, believe this or not, in a Volkswagen, one of those love vans, you know, with the flowers on the side. I had a pair of jeans, a t-shirt, and a paper bag with everything I owned in there. My wife had filed for divorce, or was in the process. My children were being taken and hidden for safety reasons. And off I went in this place, in this van, and they took me to a hospital. And I stayed there for about 31 days. And in that 31 days, I began to hear from people who had never used drugs or alcohol in their life, and nurses and doctors. And I kept telling them that these sounds and these voices and these terrible things that were going through my mind, the doctor kept saying, "Just take it easy, take it easy." And at the end of 31 days, I was taken to a halfway house, and then a 3/4-way house, and then began a trip that was phenomenal. Phenomenal. The trip of recovery. Everything that I had lost and every harm that I had done began to get repaired. And about 1.5 years into this new world where I thought would never ever come back to any type of sanity, everything started coming back slowly. One of the first really neat things is that I learned that at the age of 42, I didn't know a damn thing about being a father. I didn't know a damn thing about being a friend. And everything that I had thought was important in life was nothing but a big sack of air. There was nothing of any value that I could find in the whole 41 years that had led up to those few minutes. So I always say now that I hope I'm judged on the last half of my life, not the first half. My wife stopped filing the divorce, or stopped the divorce process, when her attorney said to her, "You sure you want to divorce this guy? He's one of the nicest men I ever met." She said, "You got to be talking about a different man." And I wasn't trying to stop the divorce. I wasn't trying to manipulate anybody anymore. And I got to one day in this little, while I was waiting for things to happen, I lived in an apartment with 2 other recovering guys. I like using that word now, recovering guys. And the kids are adults now. And I sit around a table with them. They talk about stories that they can remember. Some I don't want to hear, but there's one I really like. It was a time when I was with these 2 other recovering guys, and they came over to the house. I had a supervised visitation for 4 hours on a Saturday morning. And I didn't have but, I think, 8 hot dogs in the refrigerator. I didn't have any buns. I had some mustard, ketchup, and I found some bird feathers in the backyard of this apartment, like seagull feathers. So I made like little Indian feathers for them. Somehow or other got it on their head, took them out in the backyard, dug a hole in the ground, snapped some sticks, because I didn't have any charcoal. Put the hot dogs on sticks. I said, "I'm going to teach you how the American Indians used to cook their hot dogs." So I was learning that you didn't have to have money, you didn't have to have toys, you didn't have to have a lot of things. You had to have something that was coming from deep down in here that imagine, after having children and raising some of them, that I'd never felt that before. And here I was in my first early months of recovery, feeling these new feelings that some people have all their lives. And things I used to just not pay much attention to. I would tell you stories like I love my children. So about 1.5 years into recovery, a couple of fellows sitting with me one day said, "What school did you graduate from?" So I told them Cardinal Doherty High School in Philadelphia. Well, they said, what college did you go to? I didn't go to college. Well, I had 1 year right after my first year in high school, or my last year in high school. I went in for 1 year. "Oh, you got to go back to school." I said, while I was in the hospital, I found out I had some atrophy in my brain going on. Atrophy is a hardening of the tissue and brain starting to shrink. I said, my white blood cells went sky high, cirrhotic liver, alcohol-induced diabetes. I said, I don't have much chance of getting to school and doing anything. I'm too old. They said, well, how old will you be if you go to school? Back to college. I said, what do you mean? He said, you got to go back to school. I said, can't. Don't have the money. Got other things I got to do. Well, he said, we'll help you. Well, long story short, he helped get a Pell Grant and asked me not to try to get a degree, but take one subject and see if I like school. He gave me a long list to look at. And the first one was the Psychology of Alcohol and Drug Abuse 101. I said, I'll try that one. That was at Barry University in Miami, Florida. And that began the next semester. He said, you want to do it again? I said, yes. You want to send for your other grades? I said, yes. So we get some CLEP, that's credit for life experiences. And 3 years later, I got my bachelor's degree, and I had a hospital that was waiting for me because I was doing some part-time things. I started off working in a hospital, and it was pretty much taking people out to meetings and bringing them back to the hospital. And then I got the apprentice under a master's level counselor. I couldn't talk, but I could listen. And I got to learn a lot of things. When I finished school, I had 3 jobs waiting for me. And one that ended up in Gaffney, South Carolina, up near Spartanburg, was at the Cherokee Memorial Hospital. I did some things there for a while, and they made me a clinical director. We started to run inpatient programs, outpatient programs, Al-Anon type programs with family components is what it was. And I began to learn that recovery can be communicated to other people. I look back not only as a person who did well in school, has a lot of credentials and awards and certificates, but I look back at it because I've been fortunate enough. God has blessed me, or nature has blessed me, whatever your preferences are. I know what I got. I don't know why I got it. I can tell you that under the description of a disease, there are 4 stages. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I was diagnosed in the final stages of this disease. There's not too many people that I know can have this turnaround. They usually die either by suicide or choking to death on their own vomit, or cardiac arrest or respiratory arrest. That's in that 4th stage. And I can assure you that I was in my 20s and 30s. There were no such things as drug court programs. There were no such things as outpatient programs. There was no, I don't even remember DUIs until I got sober. People ask me, how many DUIs did you guys have? I never got one. The cops would take my car keys. They would take them away from me. They'd turn them take me to a motel, give the keys to the person at the desk and say, give it to him in the morning and tell him where his car is. Now, I don't know, maybe if they had those things back then, maybe it would have changed my life. It certainly would have kept an awful lot of people from getting hurt. In my disease, I affected everyone that ever came into my life in a negative way. So when I talk about my recovery, I have to stop and think, what about all those people that got hurt by doing nothing but caring about me? I have to think about that. And when I see the people now in front of me as a counselor who come in and say, I need help, I'm sitting there thinking, in an instant, I'm transmitting it right back. It's not like I want to go there, but I can sense, I can have empathy for their pain. I can remember it. You never know, and I hope you never feel the feeling of loneliness that comes in the middle of a night when you're sitting at a table with a bottle of booze or jacked up on some pills and booze. What a disgusting way to live, and at the time it seemed so right. I can remember once sitting in a chair. Anybody ever hear Jack Parr? Anybody here old enough to remember Jack Parr? Used to be on late at night. Went to sleep one night. I had promised my wife I wouldn't drink anymore. I was going to cut down. I got 2 ounces of scotch after she went to bed, and I went and I got a bottle of pills that were for people who had like 4th year of taking tranquilizers, where the dosage was clearly on the bottle, do not take these with alcohol. And I saw that label and my heart beat, and I thought, man, I got to try these. I took that scotch, took a sip, took the pill, took a sip. The next thing I woke up in the morning, my arm was straight out like this with the glass of scotch in it. My head was crooked to the side, my legs were across a little ottoman. I couldn't move anything but I opened one eye. Jack Parr had gone off the television. Johnny Carson had gone off the television. Little lines were going across the TV. And I looked down at that glass of scotch. My tongue had swelled up in my mouth. I couldn't move it. And I remember thinking, I swear to you, I remember looking down there and thinking, oh, I had peed in my pants. I had pooped in my pants. And I looked down at that glass of scotch and I said, oh, I got to do this again. Now, if you're not in the world of an addict, if you're not in the world of an alcoholic and you haven't gone that low, I hope you never do. But if you've been there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's insane. It's an insidious disease that takes everything, leaves nothing, not even self-esteem. So when that crisis center got me in there, they got a person in that place who, prior to those 2 men walking up, it got to the point where it didn't care if I lived or died. Now, in my mind, that's as low as you can go. Wanting to commit suicide, trying it, that's one thing. Wanting to live, that's another thing. But not caring one way or another. Been there and done that, and when it turns around and goes a different direction, that to me is the beginning of recovery. And it took doctors, it took nurses, it took laymen, it took people who cared. They found something of value in me where I didn't find it. I said, I don't know how to pray. Somebody said, you got to pray. I said, I don't know how to pray. I said, well, we'll pray for you until you learn. Things like that, little silly little comments. Keep it simple, they would tell me. Keep it simple. Don't complicate things. The man in the front of the room comes in with a shirt, tie, well-dressed. I'm sitting in a gown that won't close in the back. There's 11 of us in this room. And he's going to teach me about alcoholism. I thought, this guy, he probably drank 6 beers in his life, if anything. You know, he started writing on the board, talking about the 4 stages, the beginning, the middle, and described esophagitis and cirrhosis of the liver. And he was talking about the blood in the urine and the blood in the stools, and talking about the first taste of alcohol and type 1 addiction to alcohol and type 2. I didn't even know there was such things. Names that influenced my beginnings in recovery. Names like Father Joe Martin, Terry Gorski. 2 heroes back in those days. You don't ever hear of them anymore. But they were people that had laid out a clear path of things you have to change. It's a holistic disease, they said. It affects us physically, mentally, emotionally, morally, socioeconomically. And then after they taught all the progressive stages leading to death, insanity, or incarceration, then they taught the ways to turn it around. What has worked the best for the most number of people for the longest period of time. Now, over the years, that treatment focus has switched more back to the recovery focus. People are now starting to think in terms of the way I define recovery might not be the way you define recovery, or the way you define recovery, or the way you define recovery. That recovery is defined by the person who is experiencing that change. So a person says, well, I gave up alcohol. I don't use alcohol anymore. It was causing too many problems in my life. I'm in recovery now. And then they fire up a joint. Hey man, you want some? I say, nah, pass. Not my kind of recovery. But I can't knock theirs. I just can't. I'm not a judger. I'm not a person to judge that. people come to me, and my son was asking me the other day about, Dad, should I get into the field of addiction counseling? And I said, I can't imagine why anybody would want to spend 25 years of their life working with families that are falling apart, with individuals. 75% are dying from this disease, 25% get well. I'm one of the fortunate ones. The American Institute of Hospital Services, just a group of people that were together that's got me pointed in the right direction. Physically, simple things they said. Drink more water. What? Yeah. Drink 3 to 6 glasses of water a day. Well, okay. Take a vitamin in the morning. Got to do that. Start you off for 30 days in the hospital, making sure somebody watches you take that vitamin. Make sure somebody's watching you drink those glasses of water. Get back to eating balanced meals. You got to walk for 15 minutes a day. But they won't let me outside the hospital. Doc, I got this gown on that won't close, and they won't let me walk out there. So the nurse says, oh no, what you can do is, you see this long hallway in the hospital? You walk for 7.5 minutes down that hallway. And then when that clock up there on the wall turns, you turn around and you go 7.5 minutes the other way. 15 minutes a day, Dan, you got to do it. Right? I don't have money to play Pac-Man or MS Pac-Man. Then find a way of finding something out in the yard to make a game out of it. A stone and a circle. Try to get the stone in a circle. Little silly things. Keep it simple. But there was something else, and I was still to learn come about recovery, and that is that thing, that certain unidentified, unnameable stuff that's in here somewhere, later known to be love, and the feeling of being loved. You know, that guy Maslow was a pretty smart dude. We need water. Without water, we're going to die long before we were supposed to. Got to have food. Got to have safety, shelter. Body's 98.6 degrees. Try to keep it that way. Equally important, love. The feeling of being accepted, to have someone to love and someone to love you back, to feel part of. That's recovery. Self-actualization, a purpose in life. Well, there's a much more meaningful purpose to my life now, I assure you, is nowhere near as self-centered. And it is neat when somebody sends a postcard 10 years after they've been in front of you as a counselor, as a client, and it's a simple little card that says, I want to show you a picture of my wife and kid, and thank you once again for being part of turning my life around. And I swear, it's not about turning their life around. All I did was sort of share with them some of the things that happened to me. It's hopelessness, addiction. I don't even like to use the word anymore. I call it a disease. But I use it. An awful lot of people putting candy bar addiction and automobile addiction and shopping addiction and sex addiction. And I think every compulsive behavior known to man is getting an addictive label on it now. And that's okay, I guess. But I know the disease of alcoholism. I know what cocaine can do. I see where marijuana, cocaine, and alcohol have played roles in young people's lives who have some of the same ailments and disease effects on their body as someone 3-4 times their age, sitting in the same room in a treatment program. And this treatment, what is treatment? I remember people, guys, really big guys, coming in with a certain amount of fear. They didn't know what was going to happen to them. I'm here to get help. I don't care what you want to do to me. I need help. Reminiscent of that man sitting in a chair when 2 people said, do you want to help to stop drinking? The tears hit the floor, and I'm looking at people and I say to them, you want some help to stop drinking? And when I see them tear up, guess what? They got my total attention from there on out. And we've got a group of people, some who have never drank, some who can drink and stop when they want to, some who drink and can get drunk once in a while. And I find out through my education that 90% of the people have those kind of choices. You know, my daughter's getting married, I'm going to tie one on tonight, get somebody else to drive. They choose to get drunk. They're not addicts, they're not alcoholics. They just drank too damn much and got drunk. They have a choice. They can drink, they can not drink. They can choose to drink so much and stop. That's their choices, not me. When I took a drink, I didn't want the drink at the top of the bottle. I wanted the drink at the bottom of the bottle. If I came to your house and you poured me a little bit of whiskey in the glass and put the bottle away, I'd be sitting there staring at you wondering what I did wrong to you. But people who don't have that, it doesn't, why don't you just stop drinking if it's causing you problems? Why don't you just put an armband on or join the Just Say No Club? See, it doesn't work like that. One of the saddest moments in my life is one of my older brothers was dying with cancer, and he was also an alcoholic. And I was living in Florida, and he was in Philadelphia. I went up for the last week or so of his life. Went up to visit him in the bedroom, and I sat at the bed. His name was Franny. And he said to me, he had cancer in his throat. He said, I want you to know you're my hero. And I looked at him, I said, no, all my life you've been my hero. No, you did it. I said, I did what? You stopped drinking. He said, I could only cut down to 2 beers. I looked at him for a minute. I just couldn't stay there anymore. I went down and I sat on the front porch with my dad. And my dad had a 5th grade education. Good man. He looked over at me and he said, I don't understand something. I got newspaper articles hanging on the wall in the basement that says, you help other people. Why can't you help your brother? Why can't you do something for him? He was on his deathbed. And I said, Dad, it doesn't work like that. If I could give him something to his blood or kidneys or liver, I said, it doesn't work like that. And he looked over at me smoking his pipe and he said, I don't understand it. Well, I couldn't say much more to Dad, but I can tell you there's still nights where I'm alone in the back porch of my house and I still don't understand it. How some of us get well, get on this road to recovery, and some do not. There's no one shoe fits all, one size fits all. There's something called love. And sometimes you have to do things that hurt. Teaching a family to detach, but detach with love. When a wife says, I don't care what you do, but whatever you do, do for you. Don't do it for me or the children. Do it for you or don't do it. And then disappears. Later on, you hear the real story. That had to be one of the toughest damn things to do. When the father says to the son, I've tried everything I know how. If you want some help to stop having this crazy crap going on in your life, I'll help you. But you cannot stay here anymore and drink and use drugs. And out the door they go, and you're left there with this feeling that only a father who has done that, at least once, knows what it's like. Now, in this field that I'm in, I get to meet lots of fathers and mothers and brothers and sisters and sons and daughters who are dealing with this over and over every day. And I, too, ask that question. How can we, in 2013, have such an undereducated population of people who don't understand this the way I understand it? And yet I'm not trying to sales pitch anybody. I have total respect for people who have their own vision or version of what this recovery trip is. There's no really right and wrong. Whatever works, works. I don't have all the answers. Sometimes I have an answer. Recovery to me is a joyful thing. You see that word, the way Jerry Maguire, who was that man who stood in the front of the room with a suit, who I thought didn't know a freaking thing about what I had, He later told me, if you can come up with he said, there was a spider web, that's what it was, blowing in the wind up by a corner of a window. And when the light would hit it a certain way, you could see it. And if the light didn't hit it a certain way, you couldn't see that spider web. And I said to him there was a spider web, and we were talking about it. He said, the thread of hope, when you're starting off, could be as thin as a spider web. But you build on it, and build on it, and pretty soon you're going to have, not pretty soon, in time you'll have a rope. And when that rope gets long enough, you can maybe hand it out to somebody else to catch on when they can't see that it's possible for change to happen. But you don't understand. I have physical problems. I have mental problems. I owe people money. I've cheated and I've lied and I've hurt so many people. I can never fix it. Just stay sober, Dan. Don't drink. Don't use any more psychoactive substances, drugs. Just hang in there one day at a time. Doing what? Following the guy who did it before you. Let him or those people show you how to get out of this situation. I think I was in this building one time before. You turn out the lights, I think I'm going to have a problem finding my way out of this building. But if Casey or somebody who works here, who's been here more frequently, says to me, hey, Dan, I'm over here. Come on, I'll show you how to get out of here. Do it a lot easier. And that's pretty much this trip on recovery. You know, I have in my office today a young person saying to me, Mr. S., you don't understand. I'm addicted to opiates. And when I withdraw from opiates, it's a pain, and it's a terrible thing. I've got to go someplace where they can give me something for that. There are lots of places where we have 11 doctors from this county went to jail for putting out big volumes of pills for people. And I can't imagine what this world would be like without good physicians. I have total respect for them. But I do not have respect for someone who sees someone dying in front of their eyes from an addiction and gives them more than with no other opportunities to do anything else. I have doctors that will say, when their patients come in for a refill on their Xanax, the doctors will write them a prescription gladly for another 30 days on the condition that they're seeing someone to find out what's causing their anxiety or their panic attacks. The road to recovery. Is there ever a way out of this thing? Can life ever be normal? I would love to be able to say yes. But the truth of the thing is, we come in so many different varieties. I can only speak to you in terms of what I have known in life and from my academic and lifetime experiences. I can tell you what other people told me, but it's not quite the same. Here's your choice. One of the last slides that you're going to see up there has got a little quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. Let me tell you, recovery, my sons, one is named Bobby. He's 6'4" or 5. He's now living in Texas, and he's a great artist. We didn't speak for almost 25 years. Long time. I keep a journal. The journal's been running since 1982, and every birthday there's a little note in there. I wish I could take all of you to that moment in a parking lot on my 65th birthday when that man, that big man, got out of the car with his 10-year-old grandson, Gabriel, and walked across a parking lot and said, "There's Grandpa." And the kid come running, and I fell on my knees. It was so beautiful. All feelings and nothing to do with damn drugs. Hugs, kisses, laughter, and like the 25 years never happened. Sitting on one side of him was another son. He remembers me both ways, the drunk dad and the sober dad. And sitting next to him was a son who never knew the drunk dad. And mixed among them are nieces and nephews, big cakes, food, people from a hotel that only know me as a visitor at the hotel every year, threw a party for me that was absolutely, positively like I was a somebody. But those kids, my daughter and her schmuck husband, I'm working it out, I'm trying. I come to you tonight hoping, and I was telling I have a great daughter-in-law, her name is Hope. She's a systems analyst, and she's smart, and I love her. And I said to her, what I'm hoping, I don't know, I thought maybe there'd be 12 people here tonight. Casey didn't tell me how many. He said Sealy had 225, so I figured, well, if I get 10% of that, it'd be 22.5 people. But I told her, I said, if I have somebody walking out that door tonight that has the understanding that recovery is defined individually, and sometimes as simple a thing as hope, and it changes everything. To give you a picture, I can only tell you, the way I see it. I have a job where when I go in the morning, people say hi to me, they're glad to see me. When I see folks I haven't seen for a while, even tonight, there's a young man here I hadn't seen for a very long time. Come on, give me a big hug. It feels great. I smile. Did you hear my voice change? Oh, hello? That's cool. I smile and I laugh a lot more than I cry. I love to read. I retired in 2007. The economy went one way and I went the other way, and I had to go back to work. And when I went back to work, my wages were not what they used to be, and it seems like the days got longer and my feet get a little harder to move around at night. But I have to tell you, I look pretty damn good today. Some young lady said to me, how you doing, Dan? I said, I'm doing good. I'm still looking down at the flowers. I'm dreading that day when I'm looking up. We got a nice little house. I have a relationship I have people envy it. I have men say, man, what a wife you got. I say, yeah, she's pretty cool. She sure had a hell of a first 3 years with me. She didn't deserve that. But she's a good gal. And, I don't know how. I hope when God decides which one's going first, I hope it's me, not her. I think I'd have a little problem with her not being around. But it's nice to go to work every day, have a place to go to where people appreciate, and some people even get a little benefit out of it. Some people get a lot more than others. I keep balance. The yin and yang in my life is there. I have time for play, time for me, time for my wife, time for work, a lot of time for thankful gratitude for the things I have in life. That's a recovery to me. And I hope if I didn't do anything else, I hope I communicated that I love recovery. Recovery is possible. Don't give up hope if you're struggling with this stuff. There are plenty of people locally who would be willing to step up to the plate and help you. There was, it should come back again, my email address. And you know from your brochure that I work at Shoreline. I'm one of 40 people that work there that would be more than happy to help you. Things get a little hectic down there, but we're available to you. Now, I'm going to ask if there's any questions out here, because I think I'm pretty close to my time. So somebody better raise their hand and ask me a question. You can ask it anything you want to. I'm very smart. Okay?
What do you think of the theory that the fellowship, whichever one you prefer, plus principle or steps?
How do I think about it? It saved the, one of those 12-step programs saved my life, gave me a way to live. I cannot drink, I'll stay sober. I go to those fellowship meetings and I learn how to live that way.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, theory that fellowship plus the steps becomes that simple question.
The fellowship plus recovery plus the steps. If you like it, I like it. It sounds good to me. I like anything that works, and it sounds like that's a good plan. That's fair. Well, you're welcome, and thank you for... Oh, it's me saluting you. To have the honor to speak to the people. And you guys didn't get up and leave. There's only 3 people left, and I know who they are. For me, it's any time I get a chance to spread some word of hope, and you might be able to help somebody else if they say it's hopeless, or they're giving up hope on somebody in their family, a son, a daughter, a wife, a husband. Tell them you heard some old guy speaking over at the college, and Casey said that next year he might have me come back again. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm making that up. He didn't say any such thing. I would like, I was hoping there would be some evaluation type forms that you could fill out so that if there was something I could do better, maybe if I had this opportunity again to speak to people, I could grow from what you would share with me. So, those type of opinions are very important to me. It's a really, really neat life. Not trying to manipulate or change anybody, sort of taking one day at a time, and when you get up in the morning, putting your feet on the floor and taking just a second to say thank you. Somebody said, who are you saying thank you to? I said, it doesn't make any difference. I know what I got. I know what I got, and I don't want to let it go. So thank you very much for letting me speak and stay with me tonight. Appreciate it.